We are here in Texas on planet Earth talking to Neil, who's out in California. And we're on a terraformed Earth as far as I can tell, but I'm just a playwright. Don't listen to me. Just look at the evidence. That's what I would do. That's what I've been doing ever since I went to the Bosnian Pyramid Complex in 2011. And Neil was kind enough to allow me to ramble on about various subjects, features of the Bosnian Pyramid Complex that I became interested in my 23 months in the complex. I originally went as volunteer, and I had emailed Semir, who had created a foundation there, a nonprofit Bosnian NGO organization, and they said that their volunteer program was full. That was in 2011 summer. And I said, well, I'll see you soon, because I figured if I just showed up in Bosnia, what are they going to do? Say, we don't need your help. I mean, it was the most active archaeological project in the world, even by then, even in 2011. So, and it just keeps growing. So I showed up and became involved, made some little amateur videos. I'm just going to share a screen just for fun, and we'll just check out some things. When I first went to Bosnia, I had a little amateur camera, and I would make videos of tourists, scientists, volunteers, employees of Archaeological Park Foundation, which is the Bosnian NGO that Semir started. Semir is on the right with the Indiana Jones hat, and he deserves that hat because he is truly an explorer and adventurer. And he had gone to many, many, many countries, visited many pyramid sites, megalithic sites, before even coming back to his home country of Bosnia and discovering pyramids in his own country, just a short distance from where he was born. So it was shocking to him to, undoubtedly, to find the largest pyramid on the planet in Visoko, Bosnia. And so he immediately let people know in 2005 that there was something happening in Visoko that was ancient. And he got a lot of ridicule for that. That's me on the Pyramid of the Sun in my volunteer time there. Now I'm just gonna go to a few slides of, this was Semir being ridiculed by the media. And when he first discovered, actually this is 2015 still, but the media has just not got behind the pyramids in Bosnia, because they believe the academic line, which states that there could be no ancient civilization in this area. It was just Neolithic spear chuckers before the Illyrians, before the Romans. So because the universities sort of poo-pooed this idea, the media has come down pretty hard on it. So they just make fun of him. But here he is in Ravne tunnel, a prehistoric tunnel that he discovered by asking children if there was a tunnel or a cave that they played in Visoko, Bosnia, which is just a little village north of Sarajevo. And so they said, the kids said yes, and they showed him this little hole, and you know, you could kind of crawl on your belly for a few feet in there if you're an adult, and that would be about it. But he started excavating this loose fill-in material, which was sand and river stones, and found a tunnel composed of essentially the same stuff, but the stuff was compressed, and you can see it compressed above him. We're going to go into detail about this material in this talk. So there he is. He's usually just very serious. He's usually a very serious fellow. It's rare to get him smiling. The few times that I've seen him smile was with a Maya elder who came out of the tunnels and started talking about the 7 spiritual bodies, I think it was, and gave Semir a big hug, and he was smiling ear to ear then. But usually he's engaged in the scientific process, or just the organizational process of trying to organize the largest archaeological project on the planet. It's a lot of work. So let's look at the complex itself, just to get sort of a feel for what we're looking at. That's the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun in the middle. Tied to it structurally is the Bosnian Pyramid of Love on the left, a smaller pyramid, but still a very, very large structure. And tied to that structurally through the riverbed is Osceola Hill on the left. Sorry, not Osceola Hill. On the far left is the Temple of Mother Earth, a concave-like structure, sort of like a curving pyramid that's essentially a satellite dish-shaped object reflecting energy north. So we're looking southwest right now, looking southwest. The Foinica River runs through the complex, and the Foinica riverbed is also joined to the pyramids and the other structures, as we'll see later. So there's another view. This is before the government planted evergreens on the Pyramid of the Sun. Why they planted evergreen trees on that pyramid, nobody knows, but they had that idea. All right, so this is a microlight drone photo or screen grab that Andre Desmet, another adventure explorer, was kind enough to offer to the world. Flowing toward us are the two rivers that run through or next to the complex. On the right is the Foinica River, smaller river. And on the left is the Bosna, or the Bosnia River. And they join in the heart of Visoko and flow north toward us. And we're looking straight south here. So KTK Tunnel, there are two entrances for KTK Tunnel. This talk will be about the two tunnels systems that are in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. This is the heart of the complex here. Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon is, you can barely see the top of it there. That's the second tallest documented pyramid on the planet. You can barely see the top of it. In front of it is this hill. And you can see these green pastures on the top of this hill that borders the Bosnia River, or the Bosna River. Now, there are two entrances to KTK Tunnel that have been known about for a long time, for centuries, 15 meters or so above the water, so they can't get flooded out. They're high enough that the flood water won't get in there. And you can't see them in this photo, but so there's two entrances to KTK, and then that tunnel goes underneath the Foinica to the Pyramid of the Sun, but it's blocked off right now because of the river water flooding. It's been blocked off for years and years and years, and it's too dangerous right now for anyone to try to unblock it and get down there. So that'll require some money and a lot of work to make sure it's all safe to get under there along the KTK Tunnel corridor that goes under the river to the Pyramid of the Sun on the right. But the KTK Tunnel also goes to the Pyramid of the Moon back here. And it extends, and so we don't really know the extent of it. We have satellite scans by Klaus Dona, who's kind enough to do some ground-penetrating radar scans of the complex. And we have a tunnel system that goes, not just KTK, but Ravne Tunnel, extensive tunnel system that eventually ends up from the north of the pyramid complex, going back south to the Pyramid of the Sun and spiraling around the Pyramid of the Sun at different depths. Fantastic. So we have those two tunnel systems in the complex. And let's see, I think my next slide group will be the Foinica. So the Foinica River, I just want to make this really clear in the beginning. Whoops. So preliminary research has found, and this slide makes it fairly clear, that the river bed of the Foinica River is a built structure. It's not a natural riverbed. So these are baked, adhered clay layers alternating with soft clay layers. Soft clay layers are for earthquake mitigation. And as this is the bank of the upper bank of the river. So most of the water is hitting it down here on the left, and it's more rare that the water comes up this high on the right, but that's where the soft earthquake mitigating clay starts, is up higher. And then it's just baked adhered clay layers all the way down through the riverbed. So there's no soft clay in there, it's all baked adhered, meaning that the layers are distinct layers, but they're adhered to the next baked layer. There's no soft, alternating soft earthquake mitigating clay in the bottom of the riverbed. There is a little bit of soft clay layering happening as the banks get up further. And that's because presumably because the water is constant action. The river water coming through would wash away the softer clay layers if they had that alternating system. So they only started the softer clay further up the bank where the river wouldn't wash it out. So we have this riverbed that joins structurally all the main structures in the heart of the complex. So I just want to start out with that. This is summer 2015. This is the first time that I decided to go check out the riverbed, and those are the soft. Those are the that's soft water, but it's looking through the soft water at the hard baked adhered clay layers that the ancients laid down to give a path for their water and to give a slope, to give a speed to their water, and the speed they wanted to give it was very, very slow, very, very, so the river is very placid, meandering. That's the Voynitsa there, not a whitewater rafting kind of river, just goes very slowly through the complex. Here's some baked adhered clay layers that are going up toward the riverbank, becoming the riverbank out of the river. They also texture the top of their baked clay stones throughout the complex. Here's the riverbank, and I just wanted to, I made this a little bit diagonal, so because really it's horizontal, but I tilted the camera to the left a little to get the white at the very top, so you could see that that's the riverbank. In other words, that's the sky up there. I wanted to get the sky in the photo. But so you see the construction stones, the huge, huge construction stones alternating with the softer, more eroded clay, right? Below it. And one of the construction stones has come out in this photo. So there that one is again, all right? I still tilted the camera for some, I tilted it because I figured if I tilted the other one, I should tilt this one. So, but these are horizontal riverbank layers. So you've got construction stones, you've got the vertical, sides, the smooth sides, they're clearly stones, as opposed to, construction, artificial stones, not natural features. So we've got a built riverbed, right? Joining all the structures. Very strongly. The reason this is eroded, by the way, is because there was a huge flood a couple of years previous to these photos. And it took out a lot of this softer clay on the riverbanks. So we've got this riverbed that's got the baked adhered clay layers, right? So that's in the riverbed right there. So there's no soft clay. It's all strong, really, really strong layers of baked clay, textured clay, adhered to the next layer. So presumably as each layer was cooling, the next one was laid down. Who knows how they did that, because it's mega engineering. It's on a huge scale. And you can see there's no soft layers of clay there because this is still in the riverbed per se. All right, so you've got a built river, right? Built riverbed, let's say. And if you want to see my article, I should just go find this article. It talks about, it's got all the video meanderings built by the ancients, the Voynitsa River in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, and find megastructure. Just go search megastructure and that'll bring you there. All right, so let's see, what's the next thing? Let's look at this. Well, let's get a more of a feeling again for the complex itself, where we are when we start looking at these tunnel systems. Ravne tunnel comes from behind us to the right and comes toward the Pyramid of the Sun. And then along the right side of the photo, there's one single tunnel that comes from the Ravne labyrinth that enters the pyramid. Then there's a spiraling system that was found by the ground penetrating radar by Klaus Donau. So that's the Ravne system, and they're slowly digging toward the Pyramid of the Sun. They're digging out the fill-in material that was brought in 4,000 to 4,600 years ago by an unknown advanced culture. We don't know who brought the fill-in material in, which is just loose sand and river stones. Here's the complex. Everything's joined. So the Pyramid of the Sun on the right is joined to the Pyramid of Love behind it. That's joined to the Temple of Mother Earth. The Pyramid of the Sun is joined to the hills by the so-called access ramp, which is really an electrical conduit into the hills, giving the pyramid more earth energy to do its job as an energy machine. The moon is on the left. You can't really see the size of it in this photo. Over here, it's massive, second tallest documented pyramid on the planet. That's joined across the riverbed to these other structures. So it's all one structure. The river cannot get under it to erode the structures. You cannot erode these from the side because the river water is flowing over the mega structure that is the complex. Same with the Bosnian River or the Bosnia River. That too is built in this area at least, and who knows how far down towards Sarajevo or north from there it's built. We don't know. So that's the situation. Let's see, let's go to Kate, let's do these slides now. These are the Rodney tunnel. Depths, different colored lines equals different depths, okay? And they drew this from a ground penetrating radar scan to show us by the different colors, the different depths of the tunnels. So white and light blue are very shallow, and then other colors are deeper and deeper. So let's see. Let's go directly to, so that was the Ravne system. Now let's go to KTK, across the river. Whoop. See if we can do this. All right, so this is KTK tunnel, the main entrance. There's two entrances, the other one's on the left of this. Can't get to it, it's too steep to get to the other entrance, but you can see it once you get in there on the left. Now, you'll notice some interesting things about this. I'm just going to turn on the fan, so my laptop's having a little bit of a melting issue in the heat here. So, all right, so you can see on the right we have the inclination of the clay stone layers leaning in toward the center, toward the empty space. On the right, we have the inclination leaning in toward the empty space. And you say, wow, isn't it amazing that the ancients found the only place in that hill where you have two inclined sides meeting at a space where there's a flat ceiling? That's amazing. Boy, those ancients were really smart. They dug it at just the right place. Unless it wasn't dug. Maybe it wasn't dug. Let's continue on. Looking down from the other side of the river, of the Bosnian River, we find these construction stones, ancient construction stones, and that's looking straight down from KTK tunnel entrance itself. I zoomed way down to show you the inclination of this construction stone right at the riverbed. So that's the Bosnia River or Bosnia River on the left. It's flowing left and down to essentially it'll be going north soon, but right now it's going rather west. And you can see the inclination of the huge clay stone next to the water it's leaning into the hill that it's the foundation of. But it's also the top of the riverbank, or the top of the riverbed there, where, you know, that's the where the level of the water happens to be at that on that day. That's the top of the river. So it's all one thing. The riverbed becomes the hill. So they built the riverbed, they built the hill. That's the foundation of the hill. Okay. And that's pulling back from that zoom. Okay. That's how far up we are from the riverbed. All right. Now we're going to go to, now these are GoPro photos, which are slightly, there's a slight curvature in these, but all right, so if you want to go to this video, KTK Tunnel Revisited, you can check that out on YouTube. Then Mysteries of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon is a one down there. And these same explorers, Raz and his friend, go into KTK Tunnel, so you can find Mysteries of KTK Tunnel on YouTube. Now we see how the ceiling of KTK Tunnel, before we even get into it, before we even leave the daylight, has this crack down the middle. It's not clear if it's a crack from age, or if they literally made the ceiling out of two pieces all the way. It's not clear. Not clear. So coming back a little bit, we see again this inclination on the right and left of the baked adhered claystone layers of this hill that I call KTK Hill. I don't know what the natives call it, but I call it KTK Hill because it has KTK Tunnel in it. And then you see how the layers start to level out above it. So they're you know, if this was sedimentary, it'd be pretty amazing that the sedimentary layers would be going down on the left side, would be going to the right, on the right side would be going to the left, and then slowly became more and more horizontal in the center as we went up. That'd be amazing. But of course, all of that makes sense if it's a built hill. So in other words, if they left that tunnel as an empty space, you know, hill that they built in its entirety, all of this makes sense. No one else is saying this. I don't know why no one else is saying this. Like, one of the reasons might be that KTK Tunnel is not on the tour. So it's too dangerous to go in there in general. I just went in because, you know, I wanted to go in. And there was a guy that was kind enough to take me the first time, a guide who was a guard on the property. He just took me there without even, I didn't even ask him. He just saw my camera and he thought, well, here's a guy who wants to go see KTK Tunnel. So he took me. And then I went in again a couple more times. But in general, people are not encouraged to go there, and it is on private property. So to me, it's clearly a built structure, which means that the ancients were building hills, not just pyramids, in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. Why are they building hills? Well, one reason might be that they want to put tunnels in it. Well, why do they want tunnels? Well, why would you spend so much time building a hill just so you could have a tunnel? You know, strange business. Very meticulous building. Some of those layers are less than a centimeter thick. And they come together at these amazing angles that are really, really complex engineering feats. But it looked like the ancients did it like it was child's play. It was not a problem for them. So those are some GoPro photos from the outside. Now we're going to go into KTK. Okay, we're going to see a little bit more of what's happening in there. All right. So as we start to move in, we see these incredible, beautiful, artistic layering, claystone layers that the ancients laid down to make their hill. But they didn't make a whole hill. They made a hill with a small percentage of it open to be a tunnel. Why'd they do that? Why'd they do that? There's the ceiling. if it is an estimated 34,000 years old, which is the estimate for the complex itself, it's pretty amazing that that sealing lasted this long. And if that's a crack, well, you know, well done, ancients, for only having a crack after 34,000 years. And it might just be that it was two pieces that they put in, but it seems more likely that it's a crack, because it would be structurally more strong. So now we're looking left as you go in, and you see that somebody in modern times has put supports for the falling pieces. That's the ceiling of the tunnel. One flat piece across. Inside, it's one piece, it's not two pieces. Still strong, completely integral after an estimated 34,000 years. We've got curving walls meeting the ceiling, incredible engineering. There's no soft earthquake mitigating layers here. It's all baked adhered clay stone. No softer layers that I can see. And you got some of the debris that's come down over the years, which is one reason why people don't go in there, because they don't want to have a piece of clay stone falling on their heads. I did propose a solution to that, but it's really expensive, and it has to do with making a sort of essentially what would be a plastic, but I guess a polyurethane or a similar tunnel-shaped dome inside the tunnel, so the tourists could see directly through the transparent, but it's protective, you know, so you can go through this protective cocoon, and the claystone pieces would hit it and slide off to the right, and then volunteers could come in and collect those from the sides. But that's a really expensive proposition, and to make it a safe tunnel, it's a lot of money. So the foundation has a lot of projects that are more important than that. Let's move to these. This is that video I was mentioning. My friend Roz and his friend went in there to explore. It's a really great video because they've never been in there before. So we see through their eyes instead of just me ranting about things. Here's an article that I wrote about it. Built, not dug. KTK tunnel has left us an empty space and an artificially constructed claystone hill. And it goes into questions and some possible answers. Now we're going to slide over to Ravne Tunnel, which is the famous tunnel in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, famous for a lot of reasons. Hundreds of thousands of people have been in there, and a lot of people go many times. A lot of people have been 10, 20, 30, 50 times. Because it's a healing complex, it's a healing tunnel system, it's a healing labyrinth. And there's many, many, many scientific reasons for that. I'm going to be doing a Portal to Ascension webinar next year with Semir Osmanagic, who is pictured here, to discover the Bosnian pyramids, as a live guest. So we're going to have him on speaking about the healing science and healing testimonials from Ravne Tunnel. And that's on March 14th through Portal to Ascension. So this is the Ravne Tunnel entrance here, and that's a souvenir shop. That's a video I made with Semir when he was in Houston. All right, let's go over here. All right, now we're just comparing the look of two tunnel entrances in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. KTK is on the right. We've seen KTK. That was the one we spent a lot of time on already. And KTK is essentially an upside down V, but Ravne 2 is essentially a V, a regular non-upside down V, a regular V shape. So it's interesting that there's an opposite shape there. Ravne 2 is very similar to Ravne, in that there's a concrete top and then a claystone layer. The walls are and the floor are claystone, baked adhered claystone layers. And everyone assumes that this is just a natural thing, that there just happened to be concrete there, and the ancients dug beneath the concrete, and we're like really happy to have a nice strong concrete ceiling. Yeah, isn't that wonderful? And they dug their tunnel, but to me, it's like it's completely obvious that the concrete is part of an artificial hill. That all the hills were built and leaving these tunnels as empty spaces. KTK, Ravne, Ravne 2, Ravne 3, the list goes on. That doesn't mean I'm right. It just means it's obvious to me, and you guys can make your decision. So, comparison of two ancient tunnel system ceilings. I just made this today in the Bosnian pyramid complex. KTK tunnel, nice and smooth. Baked, adhered claystone layers leading up to one single mega layer. Claystone, baked, heated. On the right, Rodney tunnel labyrinth, rough, non-smooth, completely different materials, sand and river stones, not clay. Occasionally you'll find some clay in the fill-in material in Ravne, but the Ravne fill-in material is also sand and river stones. It's kind of hard to distinguish from the actual walls and ceiling. It's just a slight different coloration. The way you distinguish it is that it's loose, but the ceilings and the walls of Ravne tunnel are strong. They hold together. Although usually you can just pick a pebble out of the ceiling or the wall, oddly enough, if you want to. But the thing basically holds together. So it's pretty interesting. All right, so that's that. Let's go do this. This is Ravne Hill. All right. So you can find a video about this that I made that talks about the built quality of the hill that Ravne tunnel finds itself in. You can see the alternating baked claystone, mega layer, softer earthquake mitigating clay. And you can see that you can tell it's softer because it's been eroded, right? Then there's the harder one, harder claystone layer, then the soft earthquake mitigating clay, then the harder one, soft earthquake mitigating clay. Now this was all taken out, backhoed out for the museum that stands next to the souvenir shop there. But you can see the softness of the alternating layers, even so. It's not like it's been eroded for thousands of years and that therefore we have this erosion there. No, it's only been a short time that it's been exposed, but you can still see how soft it is, soft, and it's alternating. And I have a video called Shielding that proposes that the alternating hard and soft clay layers all around the world, or soft gypsum layers or soft, whatever the material is, hard and soft alternating, is a way to protect the Earth from large asteroid impacts, because the soft layers would cushion and the hard layers would sort of explode the energy, the kinetic energy out to the right and left instead of letting it come in vertically. So that's just the theory. Now, we have this interesting, this is one of the most important slides of the whole thing, of the whole top, because we have the leftward leaning layers of clay, and throughout the complex you either have rightward or leftward leaning layers of claystone, soft earthquake mitigating claystone layers. They're either leftward or rightward leaning. Very rarely are they horizontal. We don't know why they're leftward and rightward leaning. In Ravne Hill, when you face the hill, it's leftward leaning. But then suddenly you've got this horizontal layer, and it's about a meter or more thick. It's a massive layer of concrete. And it looks just like rubble in this photo, but it's not. It's really, really strong concrete. It's just that a backhoe has been cutting through that in the last, within a year or two of this photo. So there are some, pieces that the backhoe is kind of disturbed. So there's like rocks sitting around up there. But basically it's really, really hard concrete, but it's a horizontal layer across the very steeply inclined leftward leaning claystone layers of the hill. You're like, what's that horizontal layer of concrete doing there? It doesn't seem like a natural thing. It could be a natural thing, but why is it that the top of the claystone layers just conveniently stops at a horizontal when it was going like this? And it's all going to stop at one horizontal just conveniently, and then they're going to put concrete on top of that. Nature's going to do that. Doesn't seem right at all. But it makes complete sense if the ancients built a hill and they have their leftward or rightward leaning system that they always use for, we don't know why, but they always use that. And then they just pop a really, really strong protective layer of concrete over the claystone layering. Okay, now the claystone layering is hard, but it's not as hard as the concrete. So there is some earthquake mitigation of the clay that can happen. And then above that, presumably they protected that somewhat softer part of the hill with a really hard concrete. And it also compresses it. And Ken Rolla, ROHLA, has proposed that the hard, heavy concrete on the Pyramid of the Sun and the full weight of the pyramid itself into itself, the compressive action of the weight of the pyramid, including and especially the really, really, really heavy, durable concrete, 1, 2, 3, 4 layers that just on the top, pressing in, that is creating a piezoelectric effect, which is creating and the monoatomic elements within the crystalline clay and the other crystalline materials, the stones, river stones and other materials, sand, that creates a scalar function for the pyramid. So here you have also a compressive effect, whether they are using that for scalar energy creation or not, I don't know. Here's the layers. These are sort of between baked claystone and soft earthquake mitigating layers. They're sort of half-baked. Half-baked layers or partially baked layers. So they're somewhat soft, but clearly baked more than just a regular soft clay layer that we find around the complex. That's pulling back a little bit. So there's the leftward leaning quality. And you can see how the backhoe has just come in and taken out a lot of that. The backhoe marks are there. So that's Ravne Hill, and that's right behind the museum. And then you can see, just zooming in, we see the baked claystone layers, and then suddenly this horizontal concrete, knobby, riverstone concrete layer behind there. And that's right behind the museum. You can go look at that. You can just pop your head behind the museum and check that out and see what you think when you go visit Ravne. So let's go to the next bunch of slides. Ceiling material. All right, so this is Rodney Hill's ceiling material. Now this is what they call conglomerate. Now it's not just me that's calling it a conglomerate, or it's not Samir that's calling it a conglomerate. It's not just, people working with Samir. Science would call this conglomerate. Conventional science, flood-brought material, compressed over thousands or millions of years. That's the theory behind the ceiling and the walls of Ravne Tunnel. All right? So this is, agreed to by conventional science and by the scientists who have come to the complex and worked in the complex. I don't see that's true, though. I don't see that this is, as much as this looks like flood-brought material, I don't see that we can really say that the evidence shows that that's what it is. First of all, it's really, really high up above where flood-brought material should be. It's about 200 meters above the level of the river. Flood brought material should be down where rivers are, not up on a hill. And this stuff is sitting on top of those clay layers. So when you enter the complex, when you enter the tunnel system, you would think you'd be entering clay layers, but that's not what happens. You've got this massive bunch of concrete. You know how you have the concrete across the top of the hill? Well, when you enter Ravne Tunnel, the concrete also becomes the walls for a while. It's crystalline hardened concrete and the ceiling. You duck down and you've got a few meters of that before you come out. And you would think that you're entering a clay stone layer hill. That's not what happens. Suddenly you're in this conglomerate, as it's called. And that doesn't make any sense, because that means that this is sitting on top of the clay stone layers. Why would it be 200 meters above the river? It doesn't make any sense. Unless it's a global flood, but then it should then it shouldn't just be, it should be everywhere. It shouldn't just be like on top of this hill. It makes no sense at all scientifically. So to me, the ancients brought this stuff in, and then you say, well, if they brought in the material, then they probably didn't bring it all in and then dig a tunnel. They probably left the tunnel as an empty space. That's just a theory. You guys can make up your own mind. Somehow this stuff is compressed enough that the ceiling just sits there. It doesn't fall down. Although if you knock your hard hat against one of those pebbles, it'll come down. Some sand will come down. You know, a few grains of sand. It's not like there's going to be an avalanche, but you know, you can pluck a pebble right out of the ceiling. You can pluck a pebble out of the wall, but it's basically stuck in there. Everything's wet. Everything's stuck together somehow. So the ceiling and the walls are essentially the same conglomerate material. It looks flood brought. It's chaotic, just like it would be from a flood. But what if the ancients brought it there with their own water, and this brought it in and said, this is where we want the tunnel to be, and they left an empty space? Because we have Samir going in. I mean, I did a lot of videos with him exploring water channels that had been discovered in the labyrinth. And no one had been in there for thousands of years, at least 10,000 years, probably a lot longer. And he couldn't find any tool marks. He said that on video. He said, there's no tool marks. Well, what if there are no tool marks? What if there were no tools used to dig it? What if it was left as an empty space? Then there would be no tool marks. That could be why we see no tool marks. So let's go to the next bunch of slides. Here's some dry stack walls, and you're like, what's a dry stack wall? Well, it's one without mortar. So in 4,000 to 4,600 years ago, some unknown advanced culture came in and started plugging the tunnel. We don't know why. To hide it? We don't know. They plugged it though. And they created these dry stack stone walls at the side tunnel entrances. So every time you see one of these walls, you'll see that if you start taking that wall down, there's a tunnel behind there, and you can take out the fill material, the loose sand and river stones, and then there'll be another dry stack wall, some more fill material, and you just keep taking that out, and maybe you'll find a water channel behind that, or maybe that'll become a main branching part of the tunnel. You don't know. There's just no way to know which one of these leads in. There's just hundreds of these branching tunnels that no one's excavated yet because there's just too many. There's just too many. It's an incredible labyrinth, and Samir just makes choices about which ones he wants to excavate. So 4,600 years ago, that's the estimate based on carbon dating. Could have been between 4,000 to 4,600 years ago. Some culture came in, plugged the tunnel to the brim with loose sand and river stones. So none of this was visible when the foundation came to dig. All this was dug out from it. So this is a main passageway here, and all that was packed in to the brim of the main tunnel branch there with loose sand and river stones. Then they found this, and And they said, well, should we excavate this side tunnel or leave it? And Samir said, leave it. So that was left. This one they excavated. But even in this one, on the sides of the tunnel, not just in the front of it, but on the sides of it, you have some shoring up with the dry stack stones. So the tunnel itself was built or dug or left as an empty space, however it was made, an estimated 34,000 years ago. Then 4,000 estimated years ago, somebody came in with these dry stack walls and the plugging with the filling material. But for some reason, they would leave the water channels open, and nobody knows why they left the water channels open. Weird. We're going to show you some water channels now, since we're talking about them. So Samir would find these water channels open after digging out the plugs of the side tunnels. He's found, I think, 7 water channels open. Completely open. Everything else is plugged, though, to the brim. All the other branches of the tunnel are plugged to the brim. And he has to slowly excavate them with wheelbarrows and shovels and volunteers and employees. But these water channels were open. They were just like this. We didn't change them at all, except one tunnel, the foundation did pump out the water to find out if the water level would come back, and it did. So the water's being continually rejuvenated from below. And you're like, isn't it amazing that the ancients found a place to dig a tunnel where the water would come up from below and be just at that level to make a nice little water channel? Or did they engineer the whole hill when they built the hill? That's my theory. So let's go to some other images. Here's Samir. He's leaving the tunnel. I was in there probably 200 times in 23 months. And many of those times were with him, because he'd need a video to be made with some scientists, or he'd want to go on an exploration of a new water channel. So we're leaving Ravne, and we're going to go, we're nearing the end of the talk, so we got a few more minutes. I'm just going to go see what you guys think of this. Because if those 2 tunnels were left as empty spaces, I wonder if other tunnels were left as empty spaces too. This is in Bulgaria. Look at you can notice the straight line seams going through the more horizontal material. Wherever I find straight line seams that are vertical going through horizontal material, that tells me that it's artificial, that this is sectioning. They build in sections. So we know they build in sections in Bosnia. And then when you start to see it other places in the world, you go, oh, that's a sign that's concrete, that's not a natural hill. And if that's concrete, then they built the dang hill and they left the tunnel as an empty space. I mean, but of course, University of Geology would never even consider that. And they just go, isn't it amazing that there's this tunnel or this cave? They always call it a cave. Whether it's a tunnel or a cave, they always call it a cave, because they don't want you thinking that there are systems that lead to other systems and go deeper and deeper. They always call it a cave, and if it is a tunnel, eventually they'll block it off and give you some reason. So other places around, so that's the same one, Rhodope. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Rhodope, mountains, that's the cave. Now, let's go to some other spaces around the world. This is in Ireland. Let's just do this first. Full screen. All right, so there's a conveniently horizontal single piece roof that the university geologist would say is natural. Isn't it amazing? There's this cave underneath this one stone that's sticking out, and it's incredibly strong and arching across, totally horizontal. That's amazing. Let's go to the other ones in this. This is Ireland. This is the same one, okay? And once you start to get the idea that these are built, then you go, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense. Because look at that perfect horizontal, you know, and it doesn't look like our modern construction, except there's sort of echoes of modern construction there. Like when the ancients do their horizontal roofs, their really strong roofs, it's what we would do. They don't look quite the same, but now this is a tunnel that's out in Babe, Serbia, because I went over there after leaving Bosnia. You got the straight line seams again through the vertical, or the vertical straight line seam through the horizontal, the otherwise horizontal, what university geologists would call sedimentary layers. But to me, this is all built, and the tunnel is left as an empty space. So there's an exploration of this amazing tunnel that has a huge, really deep, 18 to 20 foot deep rectangular well inside of it, about 30 feet in. And then there's another tunnel at the bottom of that. So if you dove down 20 feet, you could then take this tunnel through the water, and where would that go? And was this a way of protecting what's on the other side of that well? In other words, they didn't want a whole bunch of people or animals or anybody coming in. So that was 20 feet of water was a way to protect them. And what's on the other side? Really dangerous to go in. And I'm not going to be the guy that tries to do that. I'm not a diver. But if there's any divers who are bold and have equipment, that's one place to go right there. So that's and you have to really squat down. Just like with Ravne, you kind of have to, it seems like the ancients always start them off smaller and then they come out. And part of that might be the undulating nature, the sinuous nature of the ceilings that has been found to be a way to bring air in, new air. So there's always new air coming in because there's the low pressure, the low pressure higher regions of the tunnel than the higher pressure lower regions, right? Because the air is being compressed. And then the air is losing the compression and being compressed. So when it loses the compression, that sucks the air in from the entrance. So I think that's why the tunnels are smaller at the entrance. It's just a possibility. So that's that video. You can go check that out. You can see the straight line seams through the vertical. Sorry, the straight line seams through the horizontal. What they'd call sedimentary layering. And then we'll just look at one more. This is in Croatia. And go check out that video. Do you think that that nature is making that? Isn't it always, what's the word? To me, it's an incredible coincidence that nature has this perfect, not just a horizontal, but a perfect one piece ceiling across the tunnel. Why is it always one piece? One really strong piece directly across the tunnel entrance. But the academia will say, well, that's just the way it is. It's just formed. It just formed that way. It's just a cave. And then you go, is it just a cave though? And you go in and you go, there's a whole bunch of fill-in material here. It shouldn't be here. And it didn't come off from the ceiling, didn't come off from the walls. What are these pieces doing in here? Did someone throw a bunch of fill-in material in here? Because they put a bunch of fill-in material in Ravne in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, somebody did, to fill it in, which essentially hides it from us. Whether that was their intention to hide the tunnel or not, we don't know. But it looks like someone's hiding what's in here too. Because if you go deep in there, and you can see, go check out this video on my channel. you can see that there's some weird fill-in material in there and there's two possible continuations of what they call a cave or a cavern. And it's like, all you got to do is take out the fill-in material and see if it's a tunnel. And I would bet anything it keeps going. They're not going to spend all that energy to make that huge concrete entrance for a cavern. It's going to be a tunnel and it's going to lead somewhere. Where does it lead? Somebody should find out. All right, what's next? Oh, here's, speaking of Croatia, here's Semir. He was in Rijeka on March 26, 2017. He was giving a talk, and I happened to be there because I was getting my play about Nikola Tesla translated into Croatian. So I was in Rijeka, and I said, I'll go to his talk. It'd be great. Because I hadn't seen him in a while. And he was giving a talk on the cosmic internet. And while I was there, just before his talk, some guys who were there to interview him interviewed me. And so I made this video, Mysteries of the Bosnian Pyramids. A lot of good information for people who have never heard of the Bosnian Pyramids. Tell them to go to this video that gives them all the intro on everything. Then Semir gave his talk. This is not from his talk, but we did a separate interview with him. The film crew that was there filmed him, and I interviewed him directly after the conference or the talk. Was it directly after or directly before? Directly before. So they were waiting to get in, so it was a pretty short video, 19 minutes. Okay, so there he is in Rijeka talking about the scalar phenomena of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. The helical scalar energy coming out of that pyramid, pretty incredible. So go find my articles on that. I have 2 interviews with Serbian electrical engineer Goran Marjanovic. They're called Scalar Conundrum. You'll find those on my An American in Bosnia site. All right, now here's Semir. Now, after the talk in Rijeka, Semir was going to go to dinner, and I said, you know, should we go to dinner together? And he said, okay. So we went to dinner, and it's a rare thing to be able to spend, you know, one-on-one time with Semir because everybody wants to be talking his ear off or whatever. And so what I did, which is what I always do, I just asked him questions. So we were in Rijeka at a restaurant, and I said, your birthday's coming up, because I manage a Facebook page for ancient history and Semir and the Bosnian Pyramids. And I always, you know, when his birthday comes, I always make sure I plug that big time because people love him and they want to wish him a happy birthday. So I said, your birthday's coming up soon because it's in June. And I said, what would you want for your birthday? What do you want? You know, maybe I'll put that on the Facebook page and people can get it for you. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. And most people, if you say, what do you want for your birthday? They'd say, you know, I want an SUV, new SUV, maybe purple one, the newest model. Or I want to, you know, get my kid into a better school, so I need some more money. Or I want a new, like a new vase from China that's 10,000 years old, and it's going to cost me $500,000. That's what people would normally say. Things like that. Material things for your birthday. They might say, I want to spend more time with my family. Something like that. Yeah. Here's what he said. I want to facilitate people's happiness. That's not a normal human thing to say. Something's going on here. Most people do not say and mean, I want to facilitate people's happiness for my birthday. Okay? But clearly he does mean it, and he did say it. He means it because, and we know that because that's what he's doing in Bosnia. He created a park that's one of the most beautiful parks in Europe, and he did it in 2 years. Just out of nothing, out of some swampland, you know? He did it through the foundation out of swampland using tourist money that people came to visit the complex. And so it's an incredible park. And people can come there for free. He's not charging them. And the amount of money he charges people through the foundation charges people to see Ravne tunnel is really not that much money. I mean, if you come from Europe, you'd be shocked at how low the prices are to do anything in Bosnia. So he's not trying to gouge anybody. He just wants people to see what's there and to learn and to engage ancient history and to engage life. And he's an amazing guy. So that's why he is who he is, and that's why he's been able to do what he's done. So at the end of this talk, which is the last talk in the series of 10, and there might be further ones in 2019, but that's not for sure. Let's just go to this. Here's a picture of the Earth. You're like, okay, that's great. So I'm writing this book called Who Built the Earth? An exploration of geological, geophysical, seismological, and astrophysical evidence for an Earth constructed by an advanced race or races in the distant past. Now, key word is evidence. So it's a book of evidence in the sciences that shows that the Earth may have been constructed. So here's the blog site, the artificial Earth hypothesis. Okay. Here's the chapters, just for fun. Accretion versus construction. I mean, university science will tell us that the Earth accreted from natural dust and gas and there's no scientific reason why they would say that. It's just that they just say it and trot it out as fact. So we know it didn't accrete. We know no planet has ever accreted, ever, period, from dust and gas. Then the question is, if they didn't accrete from dust and gas, then how did they get there? How did planets form? So one theory is that they were constructed. And so chapter 2 is Planet Factory. How might a planet have been constructed, if it was constructed? Chapter 3, Expanding Earth. Earth was smaller in the distant past. Okay, we know that. Then the question is that a help? Presumably it would be, to planet builders, to these hypothetical planet builders, because if you only have to build a small planet that then slowly gets larger over time through volcanic rings of fire, and the continents stay the same, but the rings of fire are bring up new material. We don't know how they get the new material. That's a question, if it's true that this is an artificial engineered thing. But an expanding Earth gives us a much larger Earth and a much higher gravity Earth now, and that's why we have the smaller organisms now. In the past, we had much bigger organisms in plants, the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. It's because there was less gravity, because it was a much smaller Earth. So if you are going to build a planet, building a smaller one is easier, presumably. Hollow Earth, okay, we know that the Earth is hollow, even though the universities will tell you that they know the Earth has a molten core. They don't know the Earth has a molten core. They just want to believe that. There's no science that says the Earth has a molten core. So, cheers. The moon is an artificial satellite. So if the moon is which is hollow, by the way, if the moon is artificial, to some degree, whether it was hollowed out and brought here, or whether it was constructed also, whether it was a constructed planet that then became our satellite, that's another question. Chapter 6, the recent birth of Venus and the present day creation of Saturn's rings. So, I mean, we can see Saturn's rings being created. And so, Venus is an incredible mystery, and Tesla is connected to Venus for reasons that are short to tell, but I'm not going to go into them in this video. The Big Bang that wasn't. So with an infinite amount of time in the past, because there was no Big Bang, and the universe obviously has always been here. It's just eternally changing, right? Just like a toroidal shaped universe makes sense. I don't know if that's the shape it is, but something like that where it's continually changing and dynamic, but it's always been here. It's just that it's never the same. Just like a river is never the same, but it's always there. It's just that it's always changing. It's never quite the same. With an infinite amount of time in the past, then you've got lots of time for races to become advanced enough to do things like build planets, because we know the moon was brought here, so that's something known. Then the question is, if some race was technologically advanced enough to bring a moon to another solar system, which is essentially bring a planet to another solar system, and then we call it our moon because it's smaller, but it's a massive moon, much bigger than most moons. If somebody could do that, what else can they do? You know? The gold-veined earth, chapter 8, the peculiar obsession of the gods who came before. Gold leafs through the earth in veins, growing through the earth. It's not just sitting there. Because I had to solve this problem as the writer of a book called Who Built the Earth? Because if somebody did build the earth, obviously they're not going to put veins of gold in the earth for someone then to come and dig up later, right? It doesn't make any sense. Clearly the veins of gold had to grow there through time. So the planet builders built this mineral planet, and then gold began to grow. Other things also, all the other minerals began to grow, crystals began to grow. So we know crystals are alive in their own way, and Tesla's told us that, right? So then we have the living gold growing through the earth and eventually having large enough veins that it's worth the time of explorers through the universe to come here and go, okay, wow, there's a lot of gold here on this planet. Let's start mining it because it's very precious. It's a precious life form, let's say, that can do amazing things. And if you've researched white powder gold, that's a rabbit hole that never ends. So go research that. I think David Hudson is the name of the guy that has sort of brought it into modern parlance. Who's building the earth today? Are the planet builders still here? Well, if the earth is hollow, they might be down there. A lot of people might be down there. Well, we know there are certain races that live inside the earth. You know, we, meaning people who study and research and don't go clubbing every day. Is there something wrong with clubbing? No. Is there something wrong with techno? I'll just leave that one there. Just, you know, there is more to do than just club. There is more to do than just research. You know, you don't have to research every day. Lots of things to do. You can go garden. You can go hang out with your friends, have a nice meal with your family. Or you can do what Semir Osmanagic does, which is facilitate other people's happiness. What a concept. It's been a pleasure. Hope all of you have a great rest of the day. It's a Wednesday. Had to check that. And we could end on there's a couple more shots I have. See, there's the entrance to Visoku in the middle of winter. Dobrodošli, that means welcome. Grad means town. So that's, you think, oh, it looks pretty bleak. Well, the pyramids aren't bleak. They're pretty great. And here is the foundation, the nonprofit foundation that Semir created to oversee excavation in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. It's called Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid the Sun Foundation. I just call it Archaeological Park Foundation because otherwise it's just too many words, you know? I'm a writer, I love words, but that's way too long a title for me. I just call it Archaeological Park Foundation. There's a lot of languages on there, English, Croatian, Serbian, Bosnian. So then you can choose your language, and there's articles in lots of different languages in addition to that, okay? We've got that's my last slide. I'm just gonna check chat really quick. Let's see. Choose invite, record. Oh, hola, Maria. Maria says hola. Hola, Maria. Hi there. We get started in a few minutes. That was Neil. Great job. Very interesting. Hey, it's Brad Smith. Thanks, Brad. Just typing that for Brad. He's been there with everyone. So that's every one of these talks. Brad Smith has been there. And you can find these videos on various platforms: Vimeo, YouTube, Portal to Ascension YouTube channel. Then there's Zeg TV, has them on YouTube. And I wanted to say one more thing. Let me think about what it was. Oh yeah, so March 14th, 2020, quite a long way from now. It's 7 or 8 months from now. We're gonna have another talk on the healing properties and the healing science and the healing testimonials of Ravne Tunnel Labyrinth in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. And you're like, healing? I thought it was a prehistoric tunnel and there's megaliths in there. And yeah, it is a prehistoric tunnel, but for some reason, people get healed in there in all sorts of really great ways. And I'm not making claims. Samir's not making claims. Archaeological Park Foundation in Bosnia is not making claims. People are giving testimonials about healing, the personal healing. Their eyesight comes back, their hearing comes back, their back pain goes away, their shoulder pain goes away, their cancer goes away, their tumor goes away. They get certificates from the doctor saying, yeah, you know, the tumor's gone. I don't know why. It's just endless. The testimonials of healing are endless. And the science behind the healing of Ravne Tunnel is amazing, and it's documented. So we know many parameters, scientific parameters that make sense as far as generating healing goes. We've got high negative ion concentration. Like the only place you're going to find higher negative ion concentration is at a huge waterfall. And negative ions are positive for your health. Positive ions are not so good for your health. So negative ions are good. And they've got negative ion generators out there you can buy, and they'll spread negative ions through your house. Yay. Or you can go to Ravne Tunnel and get way, way, way higher doses of negative ions. If you're sitting there for an hour, you just got yourself a mega, mega dose of medicine from nature, which, or from the ancients, you could say, from this tunnel that they built. There's a high oxygen content in there, in the tunnel, in Ravne Tunnel. There is an absence of cosmic rays, as you would expect. There's an absence of these negative energy grids that come up from the Earth in many places. The names of these grids are Hartmann, Curry, and Schneider grids. So there's an absence of those. So it's an incredibly healing place. There's a lot of other reasons that the tunnel is healing. You've got the Schumann resonance in there. You know, you've heard the Schumann resonance, SCHUMANN. Go research that, it's fantastic. Tesla, again, is involved. You know, everything is frequency, vibration, resonance is what he said. And I believe that Tesla specifically talked about this frequency that we call the Schumann resonance. So that there are scientific reasons why the tunnel should be healing, but then we also have the testimonials. And I shot a video with a guy who had Parkinson's disease who went in the tunnel and he couldn't write his own name. He was shaking so much before he went in, and he'd been that way for years after the death of his son from the stress of that. And he came out and he was fine. He shook his hand, no trembling. He wrote his own name, no trembling. He talks on video for 20 minutes with his friend, you know, and just go find Parkinson's disease Ravne Tunnel or Parkinson's Ravne. Just search that on YouTube. This is Jock Doubleday reporting from Kerrville, Texas. Hope you all have a scientific day. Thank you to Neil and Portal to Ascension for being an amazing outlet for independent researchers and for new information outside of the academic gridlock. I hope you all have a scientific and a wonderful day.